So most of the young people out there in high school and even people who are in mid-careers are constantly looking to improve themselves in terms of their education, in terms of how they make themselves marketable to the international world, especially here in Zimbabwe, where we have had economic challenges. We are always looking to go out of Zimbabwe for greener pastures, for better learning institutions. Now, the situation right now, here on this episode, we discuss with you the options that you can get. Join me after this break so that we give you more detail. Welcome back to The Situation Right Now with me, your host as usual, Dara B. Now, we all used to having the hard talk, but sometimes we need to go to what matters to our people, their education and their professional growth. And on this episode, we're going to be doing that. And joining me in studio to help me discuss these issues is the Vice Chancellor of University of Venda in South Africa, Bernard Belli. Right, I get that correct.
Yeah, you did.
I did. Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor and Principal, and thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for welcoming us here.
You're in Zimbabwe. Tell us, how are you finding Zimbabwe at the moment?
As I said earlier, Zimbabwe is like a home. Coming here, it's much closer to where we are from, Limpopo University and University of Venda in Limpopo, which is much closer to proximity to Zimbabwe here. So it's always been a very good, period of mind coming here to Zimbabwe, either driving or coming through the aeroplane. But it's like at home, as I said.
Yeah. What brings you here? What makes you the whole Vice Chancellor of a university come to Zimbabwe? And let's talk about the scope of your visit.
Yes, the scope of our visit is twofold. Firstly, is to ensure that we, as a SADC region, as a University of Venda, we must have a number of students that are not coming from South Africa. Students that should be coming from Botswana, Zimbabwe, Lesotho, Swaziland, in that proximity. So we felt that, we need to come back to Zimbabwe, because in the past years, prior years, we used to have a quite huge number of students who were coming from Zimbabwe studying at University of Venda. And that number has since sort of dropped. And it's our view to come back again to Zimbabwe to sort of speak to officials. How do we begin to ensure that this number again goes up? Because we believe in the power of education, that once you provide education to young people, they are able to make their own lives in the way they should. So we see education in that role of changing the people's roles, environment, as it were.
You said you're talking to officials. Which officials are you talking to, and why?
There is the people who are in charge of the scholarship program that used to send prior students to University of Venda. That is government related. Also, we are engaging universities so that we can also have some bilateral agreements about student staff exchange in that order. But also, we are targeting also high schools, so that when your students or learners finish, they are from 6 or from 5, they are able to really come to apply for University of Venda. So as I said, it's twofold. We are also engaging with the, schools, as it were. We just come from a high, school, Churchill High, school, just here in Harare, where we had a very good discussion with staff and also my headmaster and also the learners around sharing with them what is possible, what is also available if they want to consider to study in South Africa and in University of Venda in particular.
Yes. So some people, when we talk about South Africa, we know Wits is very popular in Zimbabwe and Stellenbosch. What makes you think people should not choose those and go to the University of Venda?
It's a very good question. As you know, South Africa has got about 26 public universities. So University of Venda is one of the 26 public universities. We are funded by government. And we are located just here in Limpopo, not very far from where we are here. And the reason why we distinguish ourselves as a university, apart from other universities that are doing so well, is because our programs, the way that we put them together, we believe they are much more affordable, because we want to make sure that we open the doors of learning to students from across, kind of backgrounds to come and really study. So firstly, we are saying for a student to come to University of Venda, it's not gonna like you travel from here to Cape Town, which will be long hours, but it's much, much closer. And secondly, we are saying also our fee structures are quite very affordable, even for a local person to be able to afford to study at Univen. And we've got cases in the past where a lot of students who came from this country, who studied at University of Venda, were able to complete their degrees, and they're doing great work either in South Africa, also here, and other countries in the world. So we see ourselves in that kind of a space. We also got programs that are quite very tailor-made, to assist with the needs that people are going through. I'll give you an example. We do have a program, what we call a degree in developmental studies. Now we know that in a SADC region, we are challenged by this issue of development. So we put a program that in our view will begin to assist students and people within these parameters where we are on the issues of development. So we sort of pride ourselves much around those programs.
VC, there's this issue that is causing some shifts around this around AI, artificial intelligence. How has this impacted on your university, and what are you doing to ensure that as an institution of higher learning, as an institution of innovation, you are on board?
Yeah, quite correct. You see, we can't be as if you are a university when the trends in the world are changing. Now we speak of AI, and then you, as a university, you don't move with times, then you will be outdated. Now, as a university, we got the robust policies that sort of govern this AI, policies on AI, because we encourage our staff and students to make sure that we use this artificial intelligence in a way that other countries and other universities in the world are doing. Also, further than that, we are much more in our online spaces, where we are now much more, our education is much more online, where you are able to attend a lecture room at Univen, and the course being provided somewhere, let's say in the US, with what we call COIL. So we got those parameters where we are able to say distance cannot be a barrier for somebody to learn. So we try to embed technologies in whatever that we do, so that we simplify our learning experiences for our students. In other words, I'm saying, if let's say there's a professor that we know must teach a student, and is maybe somewhere in the US, in the UK, or in Europe, we're able to make this collaborative arrangement where we're able to have that person teaching wherever they are, and a student in the classroom at University of Venda able to follow that particular lecture. So those, in our view, is the power of technology, the power of AI that is now in use. And it's a space that we really enjoy and we celebrate, and there's much more space for us to grow into that particular direction.
So I've spoken to other universities, and they're worried about this AI, because most students now, when they're given an assignment by lecturers, they just go and download from AI. Is this an issue that you have seen? And if so, how if I send my daughter to your university, how am I sure that they're going to really learn instead of manipulating AI to do their assignments?
Yeah, you're quite correct. In our view, AI should be seen not to replace our human intellect. AI should really begin to assist how, as people, we advance. In other words, when I go to AI and drop a question and it gives me a possible answers, the onus still lies with me. Do I agree with what I've been provided? Modify it in a way that I want to modify it. So my understanding of all this AI is about that. It's not a gospel truth. It just gives you the suggested whatever answers based on its own algorithms. But the onus lies with me as a student or as a staff. Do I agree with this? And I have to really use my own intellect to modify the response that I receive in that particular space. So we're teaching our students also to say, you don't just accept things and able to put them as your own. You're going to need to do referencing. because you use AI as a learning space. If you go to those developed countries like Europe and the US and how they use AI, you can see that, there's much value in that, because, you don't just take from it. You also contribute to AI.
Amazing. And as you speak about having classes, even with professors outside of South Africa, is it possible also for a learner to have classes away from Venda University?
Yes, it's quite very possible. In terms of our policies that we are governed by higher education in South Africa, Department of Higher Education and Training. As a University of Venda, we are not an online university. We are a contact campus. In other words, students must come on board for them to learn. But also we are allowed 25% of our curricula can be offered through online. So there's 25% of our curricula that we can offer online. That's the space that I was talking about, where we are able to link with somebody outside South Africa for them to teach, our students are able to follow. So that is allowed. If you are thinking about an online university now, where you can study not even setting your foot, University of South Africa would be good for that, because that is their space. They are not a contact university, they are an online university. So we are a contact, but also allowed about 25% of our curricula to be online.
You also speak about that when we are here, you're talking to government, you're talking to high schools. Talk to me, who's dreaming of having a master's or a PhD. How do you appeal to me?
Yes, you see what we exactly early this morning when we were at Churchill's high school. We were talking to students, also to staff, those who want to further their degrees, masters or a PhD. And we said to them, you apply online. You don't have to come to University of Venda. You go to the internet, www.univen.ac.za. You are able to get into our website. And then you will see a plethora of opportunities, undergraduate, postgraduate, diplomas, and advanced diplomas. You can see all these qualifications, and then you are able to apply. Also, something that we have done, which in our view was a very a good thing to do, because it talks about being student-centeredness. We have also now cancelled application fee. So if you want to apply for masters at University of Venda or undergraduate degree, you don't pay $20 for you to apply. So it's free for you to apply, so that everybody can able to access. So that is also in our website that I just referred to earlier, where people can able to go and apply. And once you qualify, there will be interaction with you to make sure that your qualifications are converted into our higher education sector, and also to make sure that you are able to register. You got all this visa, for study, permits and all related aspects. And we do have an office at Univen, which the colleagues that you see with me here, they come from the international office at University of Venda. So they assist all international students who want to study at Univen. So they will make sure that your visa, your permits, your qualifications are really converted, everything that is required, and also make sure that there is an attendance space for you at the University of Venda.
You talk about this technical appeal that the University of Venda does, and I look at you and I think your hair is white. I mean, we grew up without the computers and stuff like. How are you making yourself adapt to all this?
No, it's a good question. As I said earlier, we cannot be left behind as people and also as continent. When there are developments, bigger things that are happening, we cannot stuck into what we know the past. We have to move with times. So all of us, I think, we have to really learn. I mean, I also, when I went to my higher education many years ago, the computer was not as fast as it is now. I recall then, you used to carry a very big computer, and also a very big disk, this floppy disk as we used to save. Now things have changed. You save to the cloud today. You don't have to carry anything to, you can access your data wherever you go. Like I'm here, I can able to access my office seated with you. I can do a lot of things that otherwise in the olden days I has to be on campus for me to do them. So I'm saying, as people, as Africans, we're going to need to move with times, make sure that we adapt into technology and use this technology to resolve some of the problems that we have as the continent, because those technologies are there to make sure that we really advance the lives of our people.
Yeah. So the question that young people have is that most universities have people who started a long time ago, and there's this disconnect between them, their needs, and the older generation, the professors and stuff. I wanted to address that issue if someone is thinking about it and worried about coming to uni.
Yes, I think there's this further learning. Like I said earlier this morning, you find there's maybe somebody who's a teacher who want now to pursue, you've got an undergraduate degree, but you want to pursue postgraduate, maybe to start with honors, and then later your honors, you do your masters and a PhD. There are avenues that are open, for people to do that. Just that, the kind of rigor that is now being put might be different from the rigor that was there. As I said earlier, technology now is driving our teaching and learning spaces and research. So there will be some elementary courses that we normally provide. If you come to the University of Venda, we ensure that all of our students, they've got the gadgets, computers and laptops, because that's how you're going to learn. You can't learn without these gadgets. So make sure that, firstly, you become conversant with the gadgets that you have. And then from there, you are able to really taught, basic understanding of technology for you to be able to really use this kind of, And I can tell you that, elderly people these days, they are quite very good. We've got a plethora of what we call smartphones that you go to villages, they are able to really use them. So there's nothing that is foreign in our view. It's about how do we change our perspectives to say this is a technology that is here to stay, and we have to make sure that we master it.
So this is part of your teaching,
exactly,
to ensure people adapt to this
exactly,
and effectively use
exactly.
them. Yeah, but there are other external factors. VC, Operation Dudula. This thing around foreigners, and now foreigners fear. What are you doing to make sure that they feel they're in a safe space?
Yeah. No, you're quite right, and those things needs to be put in context. It needs to be discussed, firstly. You see, we're in a space where there's a squeeze, and sometimes when people don't understand each other, we are sort of pounds to begin to fight each other. But once you make sure that people begin to understand each other, to know that as Africans we are basically one people, then you realize that you begin to lessen that. Now, we had a fair share of our foreign students in South Africa, and also at the University of Venda. And that is not the experience that our students had. But if you go elsewhere in the country, maybe in the bigger cities like Johannesburg, where these things are festering. But our view is that, as people, we need to be diverse. We do well when we work with somebody from Zimbabwe, somebody from Ghana, Kenya, and all over, because we need to be diverse. So we're going to need to make sure that we teach our people about this diversity, that we do well when we are diverse, that we do well when we are one as people, and make sure that we really work from that base. So what I can assure listeners about our space in South Africa and also at the University of Venda is quite a very protected space. The university is in Thohoyandou, and we have not had these issues of xenophobic violence in Venda. We have not had that. And we want to make sure that we begin to teach our students to make sure that they understand and value diversity and how to deal with other people. We normally, from each and every year, around about April, when we celebrate Africa Day, it's a big event that we host inside campus, which we also invite people outside of the campus to come and see how diverse we are. Where each and every student who come from Burundi, Nigeria, all over, they'll be showcasing their own culture. So for us to celebrate, because we believe we do well when we are diverse, and we must begin to celebrate diversity. So my message is that, and of course, these are real issues that we must not run away from. But I want to assure people and listeners that, at the University of Venda, we do all we are doing, working with the provincial department, the region, to make sure that, we make our province not to be, xenophobic as far as other people are related.
Amazing. I want to bring you to one thing that the University of Venda is doing. It's currently implementing its 5-year strategic plan. The university strategy is to improve the quality of life of both staff and students. Now let us talk about that.
Yes, we are now at the last year of the current strategic plan. So 2026-2030 is going to be a new plan. And we call it Vision 2040 because it's about 15-year horizon that we want to plan for. Because we realize, you can't just planning for 5 years. You need a long-term vision. So we've got what we call long-term vision for the investing. Firstly, we are saying the first thing that we want to do, we want to be centered towards our students. We want to make sure that, when our students are registered at university, they've got the best care in terms for them to succeed. So we're not worried in terms of only that you're able to register, to get money to register. We are also worried that, you must have a decent place to stay. You must be able to have, all amenities for you to be able to read and pass and make sure that you secure in your environment. So what we normally do is, we got about 4,000 beds inside campus. Each and every year when we admit new students coming from other African countries or even to Europe, we make sure that they stay within campus because we want to be closer to these young students who came. It's only in your second and third year we allow you to go and sit outside in the towns, in the cities, where you're able to commute back to campus. But in the first year, we want to make sure that you're in. That's number one around our student centered in. We are also saying that we want to become this entrepreneurial university, wherein we don't just train our students to go and look for a job. Because gone are the days where now there are bigger companies that are waiting. We need to teach students to create their own jobs, to make sure that they are empowered, they are given skills to create their own job, to be entrepreneurs and also employ others. And number three, we are saying that we want to zoom into our research environment, because if we really want to make sure that we change the fortune of our country, of our continent, in our region, as it were SADC, research, in our view, becomes a key driver. We're going to need to be robust in terms of this research, able to collaborate with universities here in Zimbabwe on big issues so that we really have some impact. And that's the reason why also we are here, so that we can begin to engage with some universities here on how we can collaborate and make sure that we bring research that is going to impact in the lives of our people. And lastly, our plan look into what we call the internationalization and partnership. And that's the reason why we are here in Zimbabwe. Because as a university, we believe we do well when we are diverse, when we got staff that is coming from Zimbabwe, from Kenya, and other places, teaching at the University of Venda. And we want to make sure that we strengthen our partnerships with any institutions here in Zimbabwe to make sure that we really live up to that. So our plan, as we call it, we want to make sure that we address those issues to make sure that we contribute to our continent and also to our region in the way that we've been affected by many things that we see here.
Yeah. Quality of staff, VC is very important. Students or parents of those students want to know that they're discharging their children to dedicated staff, well paid, who will not miss lectures. Let's talk to that.
Yes. You see, University of Venda is one of the fortunate universities in my view. I'm not saying that because I'm a Vice Chancellor there, but just to tell you, the beauty of the space. We got a very diverse international staff. As I said earlier, if I also am a parent, if I want to send my child to a university, I want to check, who's teaching there, what is their qualification, and I want to assure you that we got one of the best qualified teaching and research staff as the University of Venda. About 46% of our teaching staff, they possess a PhD, a doctoral degree. That's quite very high. In other words, almost 50% of our teaching staff, they've got a PhD. So students, when they come to Univen, they are taught by people who have really advanced in terms of their studies, those who carry a PhD. I think you will understand that PhD is a pinnacle in terms of this academic achievement. So about 46 staff of our staff, they do have PhDs. And we want to make sure that that number grows, so that we really maybe 50%, 41, 51% in that region. But we see ourselves in a very good trajectory in that particular direction of ensuring that students are taught by qualified staff. We also got quite a number of professors at the University of Venda. And our view is that, these professors, apart from doing research, they also do a lot of teaching. They teach our students also in the classroom. So I can assure parents and those that are listening that, If you do allow your children to come to study at University of Venda, they'll get a best quality education in a way that you also afford it yourself.
Now, what is your signature offering at the university? You know, some universities are known more for medicine, some for law, some for technical subjects. What is your...
Yeah, there are two, maybe three I can just share with listeners. You know, firstly, we are good at the law school. Our law school is one of the best in South Africa. So students who studied law at University of Venda, they go very, very far. So law is our signature program. Number two, our BCom accounting, where you become a chartered accountant, is also a signature, platform for us. Students who have studied at Univen to do their BCom, they went out, as chartered accountants, and they do very, very, very well when they move out. We are also in the space where we are beginning to see within our sciences in agriculture, our forestry, we've got a lot of students who have done environmental sciences, geology, who are now in the big mines in the country, in South Africa and also elsewhere, who are taught very, very well, in that particular space. So for me, these three programs, in our environmental sciences, our BCom accounting and also our law program, those stand out in terms of, things that are above the rest that we're doing. And we're proud of these programs.
Amazing. Which other programs do you have that you can you think the people from Zimbabwe, those that you're looking at, could actually benefit from apart from your signature offerings? Yeah,
there's quite as I said earlier, we've got 4 faculties as University of Venda. The first faculty is the Faculty of Health Sciences. Health sciences, where you do your biokinetics, sports science, quite very novel issues, things that have been done there. They've got a state-of-the-art, gym on campus, for this biokinetics, it's also something that people can consider in the Faculty of Health. Also your psychology, is also in that particular faculty. In the Faculty of Humanities, Commerce, Social Science and Education, that's a faculty where now if you want to become a social scientist, you want to become an educator in education, this is a faculty that is there to make sure that they push those programs. And there's quite a number of programs in those faculties that are really being pushed. I make an example about these developmental studies. It's also within this Faculty of Human Sciences, Social Science and Education that people can able also to look into. And then the third faculty is the Faculty of Science, Engineering and Agriculture. Again, it's a very flagship faculty for us, which produces a lot of our doctoral students in that particular faculty, where you can focus into agriculture, you can focus into engineering and also in the sciences. If you just want to do BSc in biochemistry, chemistry, BSc chemistry, BSc mathematics, that faculty is there for you. And the last faculty is the Faculty of Management, Commerce and Law. So it's a part where the SAICA that I talked about, where you qualify as a chartered accountant, your law degree, LLB degrees are in this particular faculty. And the mainstream administration that is also resident in this particular faculty. So those faculties, all of them, they offer what you call your undergraduate programs to your postgraduate program. So you do your honors, your masters and your PhDs in that way that we just design it in. And all of them are accessible. If you go to our website, you are able to see all those faculties. And within those faculties, there are about 84 programs that we can choose from.
Wow. I thought you were going to charm me and talk about the media faculty.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're talking to me.
Exactly. We can talk about that. We also got a media studies at Univen. If you want to just focus into the media study, journalism, we got those. This is part of what we offer in the university. And also we offer music. For those who want to study music, it's being offered at the University of Venda.
VC, universities have been known for years producing political leaders and encouraging political participation in terms of the running of the universities. Do you encourage students politics within the university, and how is the university accountable to the students?
That's a good question. It's a very good question. You see, you cannot be a university where you say you want to focus your students just to only read and write or learn, without them exposing to what is happening in the broader societies. Because once you leave the university, you become a member of society or community. So you must be prepared, you must be taught. You must know something about how societies function, all this and that. Similarly, we are a political people. You know, we are in a space where there's government, there's contestation. So we make sure that also in our university, we've got what we call student parliament, where the students themselves will elect their leaders in what we call the SRCs, Student Representative Council. Now this will be a president and the entire student that are elected. They run the affairs of students. They also got a budget, that they receive from the university. If I could recall this year, the budget for our SRC is about 60 million rand. It's a lot of money. So they have to run their own programs. They make sure that, they prepare students for this political life in terms of how they want to do business. Because we want to make sure that, when you train a student, it's not only on the one-sided, dimension, but also you're able to see other things outside that is happening. So I can say to you that, we are quite alive into those spaces. If you come to our campuses, you'll find, political organization. Those are in the mainstream politics. They've got student chapters, inside campus, to push their own ideals. And that is allowed if we talk about this democratic space that we are in, where you allow even different opinions, allow people to able to speak their minds. If we are really people that are saying, we are open to democracy, we should be open to that. You can't muzzle people to speak their minds, and say, from here nowhere nothing happens. So we allow that space. Of course, when it's done within the confines of the university policies and everything, is ensuring that it doesn't put the life of student at risk and that of a staff. That is allowed.
Amazing. Now let me just take a short break, and when I come back, we want to talk a little bit more about you, not the institution, because people would come and join an institution whose leadership they know. So join me after this break. Welcome back to The Situation Right Now with me, your host, as usual, Dara Blessed Mhlanga. And I'm in conversation with Professor Bernard Belli, who's the Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of Venda, Univen. Now, you are an accomplished and successful chief executive with more than 25 years of experience. Now talk to us, walk through this 25 years.
Mm-hmm. Yes, like anybody else, as a young person in Africa, I come from a very modest background, very difficult background in terms of the growing up, where it's only the father who will be working, and not working as a professional, just as a laborer. But that never stopped us to dream that we can become something else. And I want to thank my parents who really believe in the power of education. That it's only through education where you are able to change the fortunes of people. So like anybody, the African child in Africa, went to primary school, higher primary school, went to my university degree at the University of Durban then. Now they call it University of KwaZulu-Natal, where I spent about 4 or 5 years studying my undergraduate and also honors. And then later I moved to Johannesburg, where I work as a lecturer at the university. The way we used to call it Vista University. They are no longer around those universities. They've been merged with other institutions. So I worked there for a number of years as a lecturer, where I also make sure that I did my master's degree and my PhD, through the University of Johannesburg now. But then they used to call it Rand Afrikaans University. So I did my qualification at that university. And then I also taught, as I said earlier, at the university. But I moved from university to what we call the National Research Foundation. That's where I spent most of my years. And it's an organization in South Africa that manages a research in the country. It funds and manages research in the country. Make sure that it gives money for research to universities, for those professors who are doing novel research, so that we really support what they're doing. They also do what we call funding to capacity development. If there's somebody who wants to do honors, masters, and a PhD, NRF makes sure that they give you funding for you to study for those programs. So I studied the NRF for close to a number of years, for me to make sure that we do that particular work in terms of research. And then about 7 years ago, I left NRF. I came to the University of Venda as their Vice Chancellor. With the kind of experience that I've garnered, prior years, it was quite handy for me to know what's supposed to be happening. And if you come to the University of Venda today, you see the work that has begun. You can begin to appreciate, the efforts that staff and students have put into the space. We've got a university with a very large, infrastructure. Our student residencies, our lecture room facilities, quite very good and novel, and also our research equipment, because you cannot do research without these pieces of large equipments that are very expensive. I signed an agreement, what we call a memorandum of understanding, just this year with the Gwanda State University, here in Zimbabwe. They came to South Africa. And I said to them, as we were signing this memorandum of agreement, that in our views that, if they say colleagues or staff from Gwanda State University want to do some certain research work in the large equipment that we have, they don't have to travel to Europe to use such equipment so far away, while you can come to the University of Venda. So we want to open these doors to make sure that universities here and staff here are able to really collaborate and work with our staff at the University of Venda and avail these research equipments that are quite very, in a very wanted, by almost everybody, because they're quite very novel, got very novel research equipment as an University of Venda. So I can say to you and to your listeners that we see ourselves as a university that want to broker these corporations, because we believe we do well as we work together as people.
You talk about coming from a very humble background. How has this shaped you as a Vice Chancellor at the university in the manner in which you interact with your students?
No, it has really shaped me in a way that, firstly, I am able to see that, what has happened to me can happen to another child. I also believe that, your economic background cannot define you. In other words, if I was born from this kind of family, now I'm a professor, I'm a Vice Chancellor, which means it's also possible that somebody, a young child who was born somewhere, they can be just like me. So I approach my life with the view that, we must give hope to people. So the message that we put across to our staff, to our learners, is a message of hope, that we can change our fortunes.
But someone would sit down and say, no matter how hard you try, if you don't have connections, you will not make it.
Yeah, I can agree, but also partially not agree. Because for me, you don't become great because there were no adversities. You become great because you face adversities. So there will be a great adversities. I mean, South Africa. I was born, the time I was born, there was no freedom in South Africa. This is a recent thing that happened about 30 years ago. So there was great adversities. But throughout those adversities, you have to say, what is your passion? What is it that you want to do? And sometimes you don't put problems up front. You put your determination. Where do I want to go? And once you define where you want to go, you realize money will find you on the wall, going where you want to go. But if you first want to have money to decide where you want to go, then I can tell you you're not going to go anywhere.
The other thing, Professor, is that people are, young people have come to see some of those trendy, flashy politicians who never went to college. And they're thinking, you don't really need to go to college. And be like our Vice Chancellor or Professor who probably can't afford the latest car on the market. What do you say?
Yeah, you see, of course, as people, again, as Africans, we're going to really define for us what really works for us. You know, are we going to be this continent or these people will always be consumers of what other people put on the table, where we are just waiting, you know, or what we see on ourselves is not to contribute this knowledge that people are reading. So I'm saying to you as Africans, first and foremost, we must celebrate our researchers, our staff that are educated, because it's through this staff, the teachers in the primary school and secondary school, they're doing a great job. And those, in my view, those are the people that we need to celebrate. Make sure that we honor them, because they're the people that are bringing education and learning to our spaces, you know. Now, if you look into one person who, whatever, a bling kind of, you know, in my view, I respect somebody who has been to school, somebody who has really went through because I believe that, you know, not only in terms of you able to buy or afford to buy your jacket, but also you have raised a number of children, you know, out of the poverty they might be coming from. So I see it that way, and hence I believe that, you know, as Africans, we must begin to celebrate education, because education is the only way in which you can come from poverty and become something else. I mean, I wouldn't be a vice chancellor without education. I wouldn't. Practically, it would be very impossible. But education is able to open doors for you. I've been to a number of countries in the world, number of them. If I didn't have education, I wouldn't be. So education, in my view, opens your horizon. And make sure that also you bring along those that are following you, students and the likes, to make sure that they follow that.
You also have this background in research. So how much have you invested in Univen for research? Because your 7 years in that research must have endeared you to that.
Yeah, quite very. You see, the job of the Vice Chancellor is to run the university, to make sure everything is working as it's supposed to work. That's the number one job of the Vice Chancellor, to make sure that, you know, students are doing what they're supposed to be doing, staff are teaching, things are happening in the way they've been defined. That's number one priority of mine, to make sure that it happens. I'm also saying that, you know, we must begin to open, you know, opportunities for our staff, wherein you open up opportunities for them to collaborate with the university here, like in Zimbabwe, university in China, in the US, and also in the UK. You create those spaces. That's also what we do in the space. But I also, from time to time, when I've got you know, a space like just in our last graduation ceremony in May, you know, I was able to contribute, and I supervise one PhD student who completed his degree in May. You know, that is so over and above what I'm doing. But to make sure that we also contribute in the research. I also, from time to time, you know, in the annual basis, I put some publications, research publications, in what we call outputs articles, you know, so that, you know, you stay aloof in terms of your new things that are happening. You write articles, you influence the knowledge. So you Google my name, you're going to find, oh, this was written by Professor so-and-so. You know, this is what he said about this particular, you know, topic. You know, this is a theory that has been put forward that begin to guide people's life moving forward. So I think all of us as people, we need research. We need to make sure that we contribute to what is happening. We are dealing now with the problems of diseases today. You know, we're going to need to make sure that we contribute to that as a university. We can't just be consumers.
Amazing. And I mean, as we close, Professor, where do you place the quality of education that Africa has been producing over the past decade?
It's a very good question. I think in Africa, I normally do a lot of following the rankings of universities in the continent. There are some of universities in the continent who are top-notch in the world. You know, give an example, you know, number of universities in South Africa, they're in that category. Number of universities in Egypt, they're in that category. Some in Nigeria, in that category. So there's quite a very, you know, number of universities that are in that particular league, because they must play into that space. But what I can share with you as far as our university is concerned is that all the programs that the University of Venda will teach to the student, they must be accredited. In other words, there's a body in South Africa, what we call Council on Higher Education. I cannot just come with a program tomorrow. I said, hey, tomorrow I want to teach this. But that program must first go to CHE. They are the one who said, no, yes, we accredit this program. It's got value, it's going to change lives, then it should be taught. So firstly, all the programs that are taught at the University of Venda are certified by Council on Higher Education and also by the South African Qualification Authority framework, so that they're in that particular space. So these are programs that if you study them, you can move to the US and able to get your accreditation of that particular module that you did, because these are international standards that we follow in that space. So coming to study at Univen will allow you that space. You can able to carry your credits to another university in another country for you to able to move forward. You do our bachelor's degree, you are able to move to Europe to do your honors, masters in the way that you want to pursue it in. It gives you that balance and the basics for you to be able to move with your.
But education has transformed other nations, in Europe, in China, where they have moved from consuming, as you were saying, to production and value addition of minerals and other raw materials. How long is our education going to take us until we get to that point where we don't have to mine chrome from South Africa and take it to China as ore?
Yeah, exactly. And those are the big issues that I think as Africans we're going to need to have a rethink in our mind, thinking that we can't be this continent that is endowed with minerals, vast supply of minerals, but yet we don't do beneficiation of these minerals here in the continent. Something is wrong. So firstly, we have to ensure that we deal with this legacy of colonialism, because this thing didn't just happen. There's a legacy of colonialism. We have not created space and knowledge enough for us to be able to do what we need to do. So we're going to make sure that as educators, as government, we must play the lead, ensuring that we turn the tide, that no mineral should leave this continent unprocessed. Make sure that the process of beneficiation is happening here. You must create employment here in the continent, not just shipping things outside, as it were. So these are the things that I can assure you. I'm quite very happy to hear what is happening in Africa, where young people are beginning to say, no, this is wrong. So we're going to need to really stand as young people to say, we can't have this a condition where everything just mine out and all we are left with is a hole. It can't be. There must be some work that happens here. And then of course once that is happening, then make sure that your universities now, your technical, vocational and training colleges, they begin to produce students who are now able to really do what needs to be done.
Are you taking the lead in that?
We are as a university. We are saying as a university that we go to our industries. We don't just when we develop a program to say we want to teach this without talking to the industry. We go to the industry to say, what skills do you need? Tell us the skills that you need, and then we make sure that we develop them. Now the problem with the university in the past is because they were producing skills that are not wanted in the industry. So we are saying that we look into our program qualification mixes. Are they really, these programs, addressing our day-to-day challenges? If they are not, then we must talk another language. We must make sure that we are able to phase them out, bring programs that when students leave the university, they become useful elsewhere, wherever they go.
Professor, do you have any of your lecturers or maybe who have been working in the industry for a long time or still work with the industry but are also teaching at the university?
We encourage that. We encourage that. We encourage that some of our students are not taught by the lecturers, but they are taught by people from the industry who will come and teach a module, because these are the people who are on the daily basis able to engage with the industries in whatever they're doing. So we encourage that, because that's what we call learning, because you bring somebody with an expert. And also our professors, they are able to go to those industries and able to really work and able to see what is happening. You might know the Council, CSIR, what you call in South Africa, the Council on Scientific and Research and Engineering, whatever council, that does a lot of research. We work very close with them. and some of their staff, they come to the University of Venda to teach our students, because we want to make sure that we bring these synergies. Not only them alone, we also work with the likes of what we call the MinTech. It's also another engineering, science company that also interface with our university. So we are saying we cannot be a university that is away from what is happening in the industry. We must be influenced by what is happening in the industry. We must also influence what is happening in the industry.
Amazing. I want to thank you very much for joining me here and having this conversation with me, Professor. But before I let you go, Professor, maybe there's something that lies on your heart or something that you really want to talk about that I didn't ask you. I'll just give you under 3 minutes to look at the people and tell them.
Yeah, I think for me it's great to be here back in Zimbabwe. I've been to Zimbabwe a number of times, and I believe that, as people, we owe it to ourselves to make sure that we develop our country and our continent. And I believe that, education has got that power, for us to make sure that we really change the fortunes of our children, of our, relatives and everybody, because it's only through education that we can able to change the fortunes that we have. And I'm also saying to our listeners that, we're going to need to really begin to learn and see ourselves and be patriotic about who we are as people. That, we are not here because of a mistake. Africa for us is home, and we must make it work. So we must make sure that we put all the efforts for us to make sure that we make this country, this continent, and this region to work. Because, we've got no any other home than here in Africa. So all of us must really be patriotic, able to really love our spaces, and make sure that we make Africa to win, and make sure that it achieves its objective for its children and also for its generation that are to come. Thank you so much.
I want to thank you very much, Professor. We always say education is the key to success. Yet most of the times we don't want to value how we invest into education, so that this key to success comes with the respect and with the ability to unlock doors as it should. Every time I sit around and watch some of parents, young parents like myself, not taking a keen interest in who is educating their children and how they are educated and how much money is going into their learning, I get worried. We want education to be the cheapest. We want to access it so cheap than the hair that we put in our head. Sometimes someone is wearing, an expensive piece of hair, $500 piece of hair, yet they want to send their child to a school that is $10. We should stop that. We should begin to invest in education if we are going to end up in a different space than we grew up ourselves. Now, the Univen, I just want to read a few, some of their institutional values that I find very appealing. Univen is driven by quality and excellence in all they do, and passionate about learning, innovation, and creativity. This is one that is missing in most of institutions, public institutions, government. We are open and transparent to public scrutiny. As a parent, you must also be open and transparent to public scrutiny as to how you take care of your child and their education and their future. Now, I am your host as usual, Dara B, with love. Thank you so much.